Hello my beautiful little Moglets. Today we are talking about Molagoras. Molagoras are probably one of the hardest resources to get in the game. They have been making it easier. There have been a few extra ways to get Molagoras, but most importantly they've been reducing the cost of upgrading skills and completely trashed the highest grade of Molagora. I forgot what it was actually called. But we have Molagora and Molagora Go. But let's start with importance. Generally, when you see a skill that has -1 turn cooldown on it, you want to get that as soon as possible. Sometimes it doesn't matter as much, although you have to be in a very specific situation for that. Let's take Guard for example. He has a 1 turn cooldown on +3. I haven't gotten that because the only place I use Guard is in Wyvern 11. And there, I turn his skills off. So obviously he doesn't need anything raised here, he doesn't use this skill. His basic skill I've gotten to +2 because it gives me a 10% higher chance to decrease the dragon's defense. But for most other cases, you want to try and get that 1 turn cooldown, especially when you are focused more on PvE, because PvE battles tend to draw out a lot longer, and when you're doing your ultimate skill, even second skill sometimes, 10 times. Without the 1 turn cooldown, you may have only done it 7 times. And the ultimate skill is generally the most powerful aspect of a hero. So there are two main aspects of the game. We have Arena here, which a lot of the later game players tend to focus much heavier on than PvE, because with Arena you're always fighting other real players' teams, so there's never going to be like a limit. Your opponents get harder and harder the higher you go, so until you are rank 1 in Arena, which only one person is, you're always going to want to invest most of your Molagoras into your Arena units. Unless of course you're kinda like me and don't take Arena too seriously. Half of the days when I don't feel like it, I just head over to NPC challenge, so. But then there's the wide world of PvE. There are a lot of different PvE contents. Most importantly is probably Hunt. This is where you're gonna get your best gear. But all PvE content is important in its own right. You can get special rewards pretty much everywhere. My only point with differentiating between PvP and PvE is Molagora distribution. You always have to take into consideration if it's going to be a primarily PvE unit or a primarily PvP unit, because in PvE, the damage dealt upgrades aren't going to be nearly as important as anything else. This is because PvE is much more forgiving in longer battles, whereas Arena isn't. So to summarize a bit, the cooldown is going to be the most important generally. So if you have a skill anywhere that says 1 turn cooldown, that should be your main priority. After that, then you should look around and see if there is effect chance on any of these. For example, here on Lydica's second skill, we have 5% effect chance, 10% effect chance. I got that up to 4, so it would go up to 100% effect chance. Lydica, at least for me, has never done a ton of damage, so effect chance is definitely more important than damage dealt, which is why I haven't gotten the +5 here yet. Just wanted to chime in here for a second while editing to say that just because something has effect chance on it, like Shermia's first skill here, doesn't mean it's necessarily more important than damage dealt, especially when it's a debuff you don't necessarily care for or can find much use with, like Unhealable for example. Generally though, if the debuff is good, effect chance is very much worth the Molagora investment. And then of course there are some special skills like passives, Luna's passive to be specific, where you get something pretty unique to her situation. Stuff like that is quite uncommon. Most of what you'll see is damage, effect chance, and cooldown. There's almost always going to be a cooldown on the ultimate. In Ravi's case, you consume 10 less fighting spirits, so it's basically like a little cooldown. Not as much since her buff, but I digress. Also, combat readiness with heroes like Judith, which I find to be incredibly important. So if your combat readiness booster, again in my case Judith, doesn't have all the combat readiness she possibly can, that should also be a priority. She is purely for PvP and GVG, so it's one of those instances where it can never be enough, because as you go up, you'll continuously find harder and harder players to fight. However, I do believe natural 3 stars such as Judith and Guard will eventually cost 0 Molagoras. So of course at that point you can max them all out. They'll probably just cost some gold and probably still catalysts. So another question is, should you even spend your Molagoras? I mean, you can see up here I have 31. If I'm making a guide on how to spend Molagoras, why do I have 31 of them? Well, to be honest, in my case, I'm a bit of a hoarder and want to be prepared for the next new hero, so that if they have 3 super important skills that should be maxed, I want to be prepared for that. And right now I'm sort of at a place where none of my heroes really need Molagoras. All of them are doing their job just fine, so my Wyvern 11 team has a 100% clear rate. I don't feel the need to increase more of Tauronors, even though I'd probably get them back when 3 stars don't cost Molagoras anymore, but I simply don't have the priorities anymore. Every hero I use has the cooldown. Every hero that is meant to debuff has all the effect chance that they would need. As soon as I get Bellona's Final Awakening, which costs 10 of these Dragon Wraths, I'm probably going to get hers to 5 because again, I do use Bellona primarily for PvP in my Cleave team. And there, of course, damage is going to be very important. So basically, when you're looking at a hero, you just gotta ask yourself what you are planning on using them for. I find a lot of heroes to be pretty generally useful. In that case, you can just follow the rules from before. Most importantly, cooldown reduction, then effect chance, and damage dealt. Of course, if there are any unique ones like Luna has on her passive or whatnot, then you would have to consider that on a case-by-case basis. So naturally, this question is a lot more important for niche heroes like Judith or Tower Norgard, where they're only going to be used in one piece of content. But for more generally useful ones like Baiken, for example, you want to raise everything. That sounds good. In her case, it's actually everything. You can get Baiken to 15 without feeling bad about it. She can do a decent amount of damage with every single one of her skills, and the effect chance is always useful on every single one of them, right? You should also consider, though, for PvP that Baiken might not even get a chance to use her first skill if you have a more cleavey, bursty team, which is the main reason I haven't upgraded her first skill, because I do primarily use her for PvP and not so much outside of that. However, that's not to say she never uses her first skill, it's just that by the time she does, in probably 49 cases out of 50, the match has already been decided there, and having, you know, a slightly higher chance to do a bleed or a little bit more damage here isn't going to make a difference. So I know we're specifically talking about Baiken now, that's just like a hyper-specific example, but you can apply that to other characters as well. And then we have definitely a unit that you can use everywhere, Angelica. You notice I've only gotten one of her skills to +3. I think that's just because I like to focus on damage more. You know, 20% more healing would always be good here, especially for PvE. More healing on this skill would be great. She might definitely be the one I invest more into. I'm so sorry, Angelica. But then like for her basic skill, I probably wouldn't touch it, even if there's 5% more chance to stun here, so it might be a little bit useful for PvP or something. But I don't think it's even worth those 4 Molagoras. It's 5%, and she's obviously not dealing much damage anyway. But I would say she definitely deserves at least +4 on ult, and, you know, maybe +4 here as well. You also just have to take your own experiences. Like, I never really even thought about raising Angelica's skills because, honestly, she heals pretty much enough without Molagoras. She sometimes doesn't max them out, and I'm like, oh, dang, that kind of sucks a little bit. So, of course, you know, putting some Molagoras into her wouldn't be a waste either. So now that I've shared my thoughts on where you should spend your Molagoras, we can also talk about where to get Molagoras. They're, again, pretty dang rare, but there are definitely some places. Oh yeah, they were called Molagora. But anyway, so you can get Molagora Goes here. This was in a somewhat recent update where instead of having to hope that one of the merchants had a Molagora Go on hand, now you can just come to the shop and exchange 4 Molagoras for a Molagora Go. Where to get the Molagoras? Well, mostly weekly here in the shop. You can get a Molagora in exchange of 15 silver transmit stones. Make sure to do that every week. It's extremely worth it in my opinion. You can also get a seed from the arena shop once per week. What? How did we win? We were losing so bad when I checked it last time and I lost all hope. So you can see up there, I kind of didn't do too well myself. Literally everyone in every base had at least 1 5-star Moonlight hero. And most of them had 2 to 3 5-star Moonlight heroes. I'm like, what are we up against here? I have no idea how we won, but good job, guys. Okay, sorry for that tangent. I'm just super surprised. I was very much expecting to see a loss there. But yeah, you can also get a Molagora seed once per week from the member shop in Guild. Make sure to grab that as well. Oh, I forgot I need to do Automaton Tower. There's 1 day left. But speaking of which, you can also get some Molagoras here, I believe. I don't know if we can actually see the rewards page anymore, but you can see we got 2 here on floor 90, another one on floor 70, another on floor 30, and I think that's it. But yeah, a few there as well. And then of course we have pretty much constant side stories going on, and in the exchange tab there's always one available, usually just a Molagora seed, but that's practically a Molagora anyway. The current side story works a little bit differently. I don't know if you can actually spend this currency anywhere eventually. I'm pretty sure it's just for like getting past missions and whatnot. But yeah, there is even a Molagora in the Summer Pass rewards, so whatever. Have they already made Automaton Tower easier? I think they did in that. Yes, we can make them 2,000 stigma. What? And then imagine if you fail. So no, I think it doesn't matter if you fail. They'll keep being, but damn, that's expensive. But totally worth it. I mean, at the end you get 5 galaxy bookmarks. I just hope 30% weaker would still be enough for me. Hi again, editing Moga here. Wanted to chime in once more to say that you can also get Molagoras from this box down here, if you're very lucky. Let's try. Boom! There we go. Perfect. Thank you. But as you can see, you can also get gold transmit stones, galaxy bookmarks, covenant bookmarks, sky stones, and what I usually get, gold. This is the only thing I spend my coronation souvenirs on, and I would recommend the same because even if you don't get a Molagoras seed, you still have a good chance to get a decent amount of sky stones, you know, bookmarks, galaxy bookmarks, transmit stones, etc. Maybe if you're newer, some of this equipment, it's not like super bad, I guess, but personally I stick to only this gift. I can usually buy 2 or 3 per week, so it's pretty nice. Now please, pause, yield, yes. But yeah, okay, I suppose that'll pretty much do it for today's video. Make sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below. I know it was very much more a beginner's guide, and you know, most later game players are gonna know all this stuff already. But also if you agree or disagree or have anything to add to the Molagora discussion, you can drop that down in the comments below. Dropping a like down there if you did happen to enjoy is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.